Today, I'm building a roller coaster themed around Skyrim, one of my favorite games of all time. With the latest release of the Sorcery pack for Planet Coaster 2, we not only received a bunch of beautiful new building pieces that fit in great over here, but the most requested roller coaster yet, the Intamin Blitz. This roller coaster is known all over the world for its intense LSM, or linear synchronous motor launches, and today I wanted to use all these new pieces and this new coaster to make this theme I've been wanting to go for the longest time. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Before you get any ideas, I am in no means a thuzy, not even close actually, but I do love the idea of highly themed roller coasters. I was raised going to Disney World, but I've also had my fair few parks here and there around the states like Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, and Six Flags New England. And I've been following the development of Epic Universe for the longest time now, but I've never really understood roller coasters. I mean, if you ask me what a G-Force is, I'd either tell you it's a graphics card or a hamster movie. But I'm determined to fix that. I have been brushing up on what an Intamin Blitz is, and I've been doing a little bit of research as to how Intamin makes their rides. So instead of spitballing this track layout as I typically would before, I actually did a good amount of research into what makes an Intamin Blitz coaster memorable. The first thing you'll notice when it comes to this coaster layout is it sends you from an LSM into a corkscrew, and there's tons of overbank turns, inversions. I don't even have a loop in here, but I do have a bunch of twists and turns in here that really make this coaster such a dynamic feel. Like, this is a coaster I would be so excited to ride in real life, and you know what? In Planet Coaster, all the settings came out to be green in game, so I'm gonna think I did a pretty okay job over here. But this coaster layout took me well over an hour to really complete. I made sure to dig into exactly how this coaster should feel, with a double LSM launch and making this area feel completely dynamic. But I think overall it turned out pretty good, but please, if you're a thuzy, let me know what I did wrong over here. I'm sure there's something. Now, the layout is one thing, but the theming is really more my bread and butter over here. I come from a long lineage of Planet Zoo players, as well as I dabbled just a little bit in Jurassic World Evolution and the original Planet Coaster, so I know my fair way around this engine. I really wanted to make it feel like you're on an adventure around Skyrim, with all of these different banks and turns and inversions being themed around what's going on around you. For example, one of the biggest elements I wanted to include in here is a big dragon word wall. This was actually a very fun element to put together. Not only was it super easy to do with these beautiful new recolorable rocks, but the runes from the Viking theme actually fit in very well over here, and with a few cleverly placed trigger systems, it comes to life even more as you kind of whip around it. As a Planet Zoo player myself, that's something I'm not really used to that much, is working with the trigger system or even sounds in general. I say this all the time, but I'm never really the biggest person on putting music or ambience in my Planet Zoo or Planet Coaster parks. I always kind of leave that neglected, but whenever I see it, whenever I hear it in a tour of a zoo or a park that I'm going through, I always think that is the icing on the cake, and if you have not added that into any of your sections, it's absolutely worth it just to pop that in there. Especially for a project like this. I wanted this world of Skyrim to feel very vibrant, very alive, and having these word walls come alive with the sorcerers chanting from the fantasy theme and some matchups and sounds and effect, it really comes alive as you kind of go over this turn, and it's just so cool. Yeah, the triggers came in so handy for a project like this, all over this entire park, as you kind of make your way down on banks and kind of dives down towards icy waters. I wanted to include some big water splashes as you kind of graze that, you know? One of the most iconic scenes in Skyrim, for me at least, is in the Forgotten Vale, when the dragons are kind of coming out of the ice. That only happens once, and you never get to see it again, but it makes for a great moment, so I had to, of course, include that in here. And while I would have loved to have included a dragon actually in this project, it just wasn't in my budget, guys. I'm sorry. Speaking of budget, let's talk about some cost-effective theming. I mean, here you can see me assembling some smaller buildings, kind of a bunch of tiny architectural pieces, thatch, stone, etc., etc. And sure, it can barely fit a small child in here, but this is a building technique you'll see in parks and zoos and architecture all around the world. The name of the game is called Force Perspective. It's the process of making buildings look further away by making them just a bit smaller. By perching these on the top of the mountain in the back as you kind of whoosh past it, because you're going by it so fast, it feels like you're flying right by it. But not only that, but you're also allowed to get away with just a little bit less detailing than you typically would. I know a bunch of my viewers over here are console players as well, so keeping an eye on that piece count and the Oswald meter, it really goes such a long way. So if you're really struggling with detailing, think about where your coaster is moving the fastest and where you can kind of monitor and kind of stretch your little piece count budget. However, areas where your guests will spend a lot more time are a little bit more of a hassle for me to make, especially when covering the loading and offloading stations. I knew this was going to be a little bit of a hassle. Now, luckily, Planet Coaster 2 came with the Viking theme to base off of, and the Sorcerer's Pack actually brings a bunch of cool new roof tiles and building sets to this game that honestly go such a longer way than what we have in the base game, that you can combine the two to make quite a beautiful and realistic looking area. Even these pieces, the wooden pieces that I'm putting down here, even though they have this little bit of a dilapidated kind of wooden style, I still made sure to use these as best I could. And even though that I would much prefer these pieces to be separate, it still came together so well in the end. And even though these are only made out of a few pieces from only two themes in the game, I think it came together exceptionally well. The rest of the building too came together so easily. Like, I was very surprised at how easy this building came together. A lot of the time when you do look at buildings in Skyrim, they have a very kind of concrete style where it's not really built upon itself, but in my ideal version of a Skyrim theme park, I would love to see a lot of these architectural styles be blended, be married together, really. And I wanted to combine some of the elements of Whiterun. I took in a lot of elements from basically what the Jarl's houses look like, the big castles, but I also took into account some of the smaller hamlets from around, especially with the Hearthfire homes that you get in that little DLC, the ones that you build yourself. Those were always my favorites. So this little turret on the side that I made super easily using the new rotational platforms, that just looks so good. And it did a little surprise on me where it started spinning and turning on itself. I made sure to set that to static. But with that being said, that is kind of how we made our queue, combining a bunch of different building themes and building processes. And I would say this area is really starting to take shape. Let's talk about another theming element that I have been so excited for, the trains of the coaster. Now, this was something that was of especially interest to me. I know a ride like this can't simply make do with an unthemed car. I wanted to at least try my hand at what I think would make a decent kind of train for a Skyrim coaster, and that really is kind of marrying the style of Armored Warrior in Skyrim with the kind of carriage that would befit them as well. I used the Viking shields, the wheels. There's even this special little fur piece that I love. I was able to make these wagons befitting a true adventurer. Now, in Planet Zoo, one of the things I always struggle with, and some of the things that I always challenge myself to do, is introduce a lot more color into a build. And when you're working in Skyrim, the colors are a little bit muted. So yes, admittedly, it does feel like it's a melodrama, kind of like, you know, some Vikings 2000s era TV show. But listen, I'm very happy with this. I think it turned out great, and I have some plans for a lot more colorful kind of builds in the future that I think will actually make this stand out as something kind of unique, kind of like the Dark Universe at Epic Universe. Now, when it comes to actually theming around the roller coaster itself, I wanted to make sure that this truly did feel like Skyrim, so I included a bunch of things in here. Not only did my good friend Lion Rider make these beautiful mammoths, I was actually able to use the new wobble platform on them to give them a little bit of life. I was able to actually attach their heads on top of that little platform piece, and it makes them kind of move just a little bit like real animals. It's so cool. But rock clusters are the name of the game for this little section back here. I went a little crazy with them. Basically, my process is I made a custom brush with a bunch of rocks on there, and then basically I kind of painted that over like a basic kind of area in my park. I combined them all into one blueprint, one group. I shrunk it down a little bit, changed the color out, and there I had my little rock template to kind of copy and paste everywhere over. So yeah, I did that. I did a little bit of cliff work, but what I really needed in here was some snow. After all, Skyrim, it's cold up there, baby. You know, I'm thinking back in the day where Planet Coaster 2 just came out and Mr. Rudy Renkimmel was making his Blizzard Beach inspired park. He was using the aquatic rocks, which glowed in the dark at the time, and I kind of had to be the bearer of bad news for that. I still get fun memories about that. Oh, Rudy, maybe you could go at that park again. Who knows? I'm sure you'll knock it out of the park. But basically, you take these custom rocks, make them completely white, and they look just like snow. And honestly, this is the kind of pieces that I would love to see, and I still can't believe these are free. See, the only things I miss now are the faux rocks from Planet Zoo. The shapes and the colors in those bad boys would be so helpful for a build like this. But there were a few other details I was able to cram in. One of my favorite things that I was actually able to do was make this ice. I was actually able to use the recolorable water pieces, and it has this beautiful translucent light blue effect about them. It looks super awesome. I was also able to do just a little bit of exterior decoration. It's not perfect. I still need to kind of understand how theme parks work and how plazas should work and where seating areas should go, but I kind of just whipped it up. I'm not really too happy about it. If anyone has any recommendations, please let me know. I'm really trying to get a little bit more comfortable with going back, redoing my work based on kind of suggestions and stuff like that, and seeing where I could take a build from there. But with all that being said, I would say that's pretty much all that went into this. So yeah, I would say we are officially done, and we can kind of pop into this park and check it out ourselves. So I'm not gonna lie, the last time I recorded the live section, my power went out just as I finished, and the entire video got corrupted, which is great. But now I actually know what to talk about, which is very fun. Let's get rid of this. This is my little filming setup. So yeah, this is Dovahkiin. This is my Skyrim inspired roller coaster. There's so many little details in here that I really didn't get out in the scripting part of the video. Like these little skeletons from the kind of pirate pack, or the pirate kind of set. Really awesome way of kind of making set like little motifs, little kind of dioramas as you make your way throughout here. But yeah, the video pretty much covered everything I wanted to show off. There's a few details here and there. Like how I made these. These are essentially on rotating platforms in here, but this was just a super easy way for me to be able to kind of make these nice kind of modular building sets. So if I do want to make another building kind of like this, we can kind of tuck this down into the ground right there and then tuck it right into that building. And yeah, you can basically set these up kind of like that. I'll have all of this on the workshop for you guys to play around with. I'm not going to put the coaster on there just yet. I mean, maybe I can delete the actual kind of layout of the coaster, but I think having these in there, I definitely want to get some of these motifs, like the kind of ancient Nordic ruins and stuff like that. Definitely want to get some of these little tiny buildings in there. I think that's going to go a long way. You can actually get this on the workshop. It's under Nicholas Lion Rider, so be sure to check that out. But yeah, there's just so much stuff in here that I am so pleased with. That came out so good. I don't know. It's fun. Stuff I really didn't get the chance to talk about, I made the Gilder Green. This was super fun. I used the Witch's Tree and also the Crimson King Maples. Really awesome way of kind of making these beautiful, beautiful trees. I wish that Witch's Tree was flexi-color. That's my only complaint. That would be so helpful. I also have the basalt formations in the background. I have these little pre-made clusters. I kind of shrunk them down, made them bigger, etc., and I kind of just placed them all throughout there, which was a super easy way of making that all come together. But yeah, this is the coaster. I'm super happy with it. I did spend like over an hour on the layout of this. I was getting very meticulous with it. I was trying to make sure that all the banks felt smooth because the Automax Raid or the Intamin Blitz, they're known for their smoothness, I've read up on, and having that really apparent in here was something I really wanted to do. But yeah, in terms of other tiny little details, I do have that brake run in there, which kind of is utilized by this building right here. I'll actually delete that piece. Goodbye. But yeah, it's kind of in this little covered section, which I think looks super cool. And then you actually have your repair track over here, just in case if you do need maintenance on a vehicle, it can kind of find its way right over there. Now, it would make more sense for it to kind of go off kind of like in that direction, but I don't really care. I thought this gave it just a little bit more interest, and I kind of do like how the metal looks in there, you know? So the only thing left to do is actually ride this baby, so let's pop right on here, and it is the perfect timing. I'm gonna keep my hands off the kind of POV at this point, but yeah, you can see we start off in a beautiful little corkscrew. I took that inspiration from an Italian coaster. I'm not sure which one specifically, but yeah. Here's the first kind of trigger effect right in here. You got those little splashes on the water. Super happy with how well that came out. But yeah, you get that little scene right there with the burned carriage. Just some small little things to add here and there, especially for a coaster like this, since you're going so fast. You don't really need to add a whole bunch of intricate details, but I do love when those spin, especially for that kind of breakout point. And then I'm not sure if you could hear it, but it went Fus Roda. Whatever, if you couldn't hear it, I'm sorry. But yeah, you kind of make your way into that little helix and then into this little... Is that a high top? I'm not sure. Does a high top need to be like at the complete vertical height of like the maximum of the coaster? I'm not entirely sure. Here's that last trigger effect right there. So you got the big splashes. If you're sitting in the back, you'll probably get the most amount of wetness, which is very interesting. But yeah, there's the brake run. And yeah, my only complaint about this coaster, and maybe you guys can help me out, is I currently do have it block sectioned. So I do have a block section. I think it's either right there, somewhere around here, right? And I do have this station right there, and I do have that one right there. Now, I would love to get two coasters going at once. Or two trains going at once, just so that it does have something always moving on the track. I would really love to get that to come into play. But unfortunately, I don't really know how, which is a little bit of a shame. So if anyone has any suggestions for that, let me know. But with that being said, that is pretty much it for the coaster today. That was a very fun episode to put together. I've been working on this for over a week. So I don't know. It was really fun to finally get into Planet Coaster, like dig into a project like this. I feel like I haven't had the chance to do that yet. So yeah, with that being said, we'll end it with a little kind of POV of the coaster once again. But with that, yeah. Have the most wonderful, wonderful days. We'll see you all in the next video. Take care and goodbye. Oh, before we leave, I do want to show off a tiny little thing. Maybe if I'm feeling inspired, it's the layout that's bugging me. I got to figure out what to do with this. But yeah, this is going to be a little part 2 if I could get it to work. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts right there. We have a bunch of other crap I've been working on over the past year or so, just trying to work something out with Planet Coaster. I just don't have the time, y'all. Alright, let's jump right into the POV and have the most wonderful, wonderful days. Take care and goodbye.